Salongo Jean Pierre, and this podcast is talking about refugee and forced migration. Last time, we discussed about the root causes of forced migration with a case study being the GRC. Today, we are going to discuss the anthropology of forced migration. With me here are the young people of Rendezvous Youth Group, which is a refugee law project support group in Kampala, Uganda. Welcome to this insightful discussion and hope you benefit. Thank you.
We are just talking about the studies on people. So looking at the differences between people and the similarities between people, right? When we are learning these similarities and the differences, we'll have different angles we will use, and one of them will be culture. I remember some time back, someone was talking about refugee being a culture. Do you remember? Someone said the refugee is a culture, they have their own way of living. I think we remember someone, it was Nelson. I think it was the second week. And now in the same way we will talk about social and cultural anthropology, we will talk about biological, we have also biological and physical anthropology, we have linguistic anthropology and archaeology as part of anthropology, right? But now, as we are talking, we're going to focus on forced migration, we're not to go so much deep into that, but we'll just go like on top, because we don't have much time, and maybe we'll have a few discussions about each of the topics we will cover around this. And the first one is let's talk about cultural studies. When you learn about culture and source and society in the forced migration, what I learned first, because I'm going to share with you what I learned, and then later we will have some discussions, right? According to what I've observed on the lived experience and what I've read, I noticed that societies and culture changes also are affected by forced migration. We notice that every culture, every society has its way of living, right? And they have their way of doing their things. Let's say Banyarwanda have their way of paying dowry. Barundi have their way of paying dowry. When you go to Congo now, where we have many tribes, you have Nyanga, Rega. For some people they give cows, for some people they give goats, for some people they don't give anything like animals. For some places they give pots. For some places they give beer. For some places you have to chase the woman until you catch her. So people have different cultures. However, we notice also, even though that culture is there, when people migrate, sometimes they tend to lose some of their culture, and some tend to borrow from the culture they have found in place. And what I would want to ask first from all of you here, do you think it is good first to lose or to lose and to accept the culture that you find where you have gone as a forced migrant? Let's go first with that one.
According to me, I think the mere fact that you don't have any other alternative, and that is where the place that you have run to for refuge, I think it is good to adopt their culture in a way of sustaining harmony within that particular place where you've gone to seek the refuge. Now, the mere fact that you don't have any other option, and so by the time you're coming into that particular place or into that particular area where you finally think that that is where you're going to settle and that is where you're going to be at ease or you're going to find peace, then you're supposed to adopt and abide by what they are doing.
I would say that it is good to adopt the new culture of the place, but again, as long as it's not by force, you're not forced to join that culture or to perform the same thing from the culture, or as long as it doesn't go against your morals and values as a person. Yeah.
As long as it doesn't go against your morals and values, you should adopt that culture. But is it, what do we call morals and values? Don't they also fall under culture?
Let's say when there is a culture, when you give birth to the first child, I heard they kill them, they eat them. That, me personally, I cannot go with that. I cannot compromise.
Okay, that's also good. It's good to share that. Sharing morals and values should inform the decision on how to adapt in any situation of social. Okay, let's go now. Apart from culture and society, we talk about also the language, linguistic anthropology. Let's go to the forced migration and see, does forced migration affect people's language, maybe the way they communicate, or otherwise? Does it?
I think yes, because when you go to another country to communicate, to make easy for you to access different services, you need to learn the language of the place you went to. And I think when you come at your early age, sometimes you tend to forget your mother tongue. And when you go back to your country, you no longer know what your mother tongue is. You adopted another language.
Okay, I think migration may not mainly affect language, but it may affect communication, because language is for communication. So when you get into a country whose language you do not share, so communication may be quite hard. And these colonialists did us bad. It is quite unbecoming for a country that is only differentiated by a mere line to be a francophone speaker and the other an anglophone. A DRC is a French-speaking country, and Uganda, which is very hosting most of their migrants, is an English-speaking country. So we were very disadvantaged by the colonial effect, right? And the other thing is, I don't know, but even colonial languages, I know Africans tend to localize them. There is however much there is that English, there is that English, but when you go to some countries, there is a way they speak their English. They sometimes localize their colonial languages.
So when you come to another country, the thing you start to do is learning a language of that place, so that you can do business, and you can't do business when you don't communicate. Also, even when you're applying to other kinds of jobs, communication is needed. So you find yourself most of the time using the other language, which is not your mother tongue. And at the end of the day, it will get affected. You find that what you speak is not like me, for example. When I speak my language, you find that I'm mixing with French, I'm mixing with Luganda, I'm mixing with English. Like when you talk with your mother or your grandma, the one who speaks only your mother tongue, you find hard that you can't communicate completely without mixing the languages.
On that issue, about the people who tend to forget the mother tongue completely, sometimes they didn't even forget the mother tongue. All they want to fit in the society, as in they don't want to be noticed or identified as Rwandans.
When I was at university, there is something they taught us. When you are learning languages, actually they say that a language which is not spoken for a long time, it dies. So when it doesn't die, maybe you forget most of it. So I think that's why when you are in a place where you are, you are obliged to be using the language which is not yours. Sometimes you tend to forget your own language. You may not forget it completely, but you find yourself when you are speaking it, you are mixing it with the other one you use every day.
I want to talk on the language issue again. So most of the time when the refugees came in Uganda, or fled in Uganda, we spent like a long time here. Some of them, they intermarried. So let's say you came as a Congolese, you get married to a Muganda man, and then that's where the problem comes in. For you, you want to embrace your culture, and even the man want to do the same. So the problem will come when the children, of course, are there. You want the children to know maybe Lingala, Kiswahili, and the man, you want the children to know Luganda, English, what? And you find them that the children are confused. They speak, when they are talking to the mother, they speak Swahili, to the father English, maybe to the judge as Luganda, like they are confused. Yeah.
Who is judge? What is judge in English?
Grandmother.
That is the effect.
Yeah. Grandmother. Yeah, grandparents.
Okay, thank you. Now, in any way, I wanted to ask: does it cause also conflicts? These cultural adaptations or changes, variations caused by forced migration, can it be a source of conflict?
Just like she said, there is this conflict of culture. You know, in the Baganda culture, it is the man who owns the child, okay? So, by I owning a child, the child should practice my culture. But just because the child spends most of the time, maybe I'm just thinking, naturally they should spend most of the time with their mothers. So in a case where the mother is not Muganda, the child is going to be inclined to practicing the wife's culture. So I'm very certain it is going to bring some domestic conflict, right? When a man is trying to claim rights over the child, but the child is practicing the culture of the mother because the child spends most of the time with the mother. For people who know the advantages of owning a child, it is going to bring domestic conflict, I think.
Okay, in the same way, I wanted to ask also, if that's the case, when these people are fighting over ownership of the child, they are putting their culture in that child, and the child gets confused with two cultures now, married cultures. Does it create maybe a new identity?
Okay, so on that part, I've experienced it at where I work from. It was a culture week, and they were voting the Miss Africa and Mr. Africa, and most of the children in the school, the parents have intermarried. Like some are from Burundi, Muganda, actually Munyankore, Muganda, I don't know, from German. Like you cannot find like Muganda what? Yeah. So when, of course, during the they call it what, the process of voting these people, so the children were asked questions, and to be honest, none of the children were knew it. Like you go there as Munyarwanda, they ask you like, what is a cup in Kinyarwanda? I don't know. How do they greet in Kinyarwanda? I don't know. Yet that the child is a Munyarwanda. You go there as Muganda, they ask you, me, yes, I'm a Muganda, but I speak Munyankole. Why? Because my mother is a Munyankole. Like, it was so funny, and I realized how the intermarriage can have the bad result to the children and to the culture loss on that day. Like, even because on that day, every child was supposed to come in the culture wear. So the parents were conflicting. I don't want to see my child in Gomesi. They look ugly. I'm going to put on her the mushanana. I don't want this and this. It was so confusing.
Just for the listener, Gomesi is a culture where for Baganda female, while the Mushanana is for Banyarwanda female. You can go on.
And the children
And
who
someone
were
has said also for the Westerners, that means Banyankole and Batoro, Bachiga, Banyachitara, Bafumbira. Okay,
and the
that's the
children
round of
from
forms.
the highest grade, because for them they are old, of course. For them they had to choose for themselves. No, Dad, I don't want that. I'm going to choose for Mother. Mommy, I don't want your culture where they don't look nice. I'm going with for Daddy.
Now what you have said, is it important now to learn anthropology? Like to learn now these differences among these people, the similarities among people. Does it help us in any way maybe to understand or to study anthropology? And how does it help us?
I'm also inclined to think that race is also culture, right? However much it is visual, but it is also culture. It is that social construction that, white is associated with a certain, certain factors, and black is also associated with certain factors. So when they intermarry, the kid is not white, but somewhat inclined to being black, okay? So, what do they call them? Are they white or black? Some people are calling them colored, okay? Yes, some people are calling them colored. That they are... No, you see, some people are trying to call them black. Why? Because now, it is now a new introduction, and people don't really have a name for it, all right? Yes, according to the whites, if at all you're not like them, you are black. But according to the black, really, because we are not... our racism, just if at all we practice it, it is to get back at these whites. So we call them brown, all right? We call them colored, all right? So even language, in most cases, someone is never going to use that pure language, all right? Even us, we do not use the languages that our parents used. We do not. Like every generation tries to create that language. Generations love convenience. That is why in our English there is slang, every generation has its own slang, but, they try to create that language out of convenience, all right? When their mother is speaking Runyankore and their dad is speaking Chinyarwanda, trust me, they are going to find ways of mixing the two languages and communicate. Anthropology helps us to understand that culture is always dynamic and to put it in context, like whenever we are thinking about culture. So we must make sure that when culture changes, we embrace it, really. Okay, some are embraceable, some, but just in case it changes, we should also put it in context. Every generation comes with its own cultures, and there are certain circumstances that really give that sudden change in a culture.
I love so much what you have said. Adapting to the culture is when you learn anthropology. Actually, it helps us to understand people's differences, people's similarities, so that even when we are going to sit together, we know how to approach each other. Actually, it promotes peaceful coexistence. Learning their culture, I think it's very important, and also understanding it. That's what we say, they call it relativism. Something can be right according to which culture you're applying it to. As we are talking about refugees and forced migration, sometime back we defined a refugee, right? And we said a refugee is that one who crosses the national borders. And maybe someone will wonder, what is a border? Okay, a border is we can call that one a limit or a separation between two nation states. And this one can be physical, can be visible or not. When you talk about borders, in some countries they have walls. Some countries they have trenches. Some countries are divided by waters. But in some instances, like here in Africa, many countries, we just agree that this is where the border is, but no one can see it. Just they tell you now you are in Uganda. And they wonder, how did I get in Uganda? They tell you, you are in Congo, you are in Rwanda. You have them, like when you go to Makoro, this is DRC, this is no limit. And that happens when you go to Virunga National Park. animals, we cannot know which are Congolese animals, which are Ugandan animals, which are Rwandan animals, because it's the national park. There is no border there. Yeah, the national park. That national park is it goes across the country, and you cannot know where it is. That's why even when like war is in Congo, those animals be the side. When war stops, then they will be in both sides.
See, on land, I can't tell a boundary. So what of water? So I can go fish from Kenya, Tanzania, in case there is no fish in Uganda, and I come back to Uganda.
That is the problem. Now you see like people fighting on Lake Edward.
Yes,
Congolese killing Ugandans killing Congolese. No, they were fishing in our lake. How did you know? You cannot prove that. So sometimes that is it. Now the borders also have types. We have 4 categories of borders. But now someone would wonder, it's because of these borders that we are seeing the issue of refugees. If we didn't have borders, could you talk about a refugee?
So I think we'll be talking about migrants instead, but not refugees, because refugees cross an international border in most cases in search for security. It's because there wouldn't be these political and international borders. Someone would just move from me. I think even maybe Congo would be a district, okay? A district. So someone would just move from Congo and move until maybe we are Sudan, then settles there in Sudan. Maybe because there is war going on in Congo.
Is it possible that borders cannot exist, or it's inevitable for borders to exist? It's a must. Borders must be there.
No, borders are very colonial people. We just there are types of borders, right? Now we can choose Uganda, the Ugandan border. I'm just thinking, the Ugandan border and the Congolese border, all right? I'm just thinking that is a very alienated border. No? Congo has not yet gotten to a point where its neighbors can really have that integration with it, all right? Because of what is no, because of the day-to-day happenings, right? So we can have a coexistence border. Yes, we realize that, yes, this is Uganda and this is Congo to a colonialist. But according to we Africans, all right, this is maybe what I mean, we can even choose to give them another name. But really, and now, just for reference purposes, in Uganda we have districts, okay? But there is not really that I don't know what I should call it. Like within ourselves that a border between Kampala and Wakiso should be that much respected, all right? Compared to the way we respect country borders. So I'm just thinking, now in case the East African community is integrated, which borders are we going to have? Just in case we have the integration that we intend to have, which borders are we going to have? We are not going to have alienated borders. I think we are going to have coexistence and interdependent borders, because we are going to have a common market. They talking about of a same currency, talking about a same passport. I think crossing a border, you only have to present an ID. Okay, there won't be this bureaucratic documentation. Okay, so I think borders as we have them right now are very colonial and political. That is it. But we can choose to do away with them. Yes.
If I may ask, before the colonialists came, weren't there borders?
Before the colonialists came, we had kingdoms, right? That is what I know. We had kingdoms, and I do not remember having border wars. I mean, wars due to infringement on land before the colonialists, because I remember the first wars that we had in Uganda were after the colonialists. I remember we had religious wars. Like, really, we had to fight for religion.
Are you sure you don't know about what we call in French conquête? People trying to conquer other people's kingdoms and lands.
No, yes, I do know. But by the time we really have to, because I'm thinking a border. By then, did we really have that capacity to understand a border? That really, this is where Uganda is, and all I know is that these drawings were drawn by a white man.
Me, how I'm understanding the borders, I think even when before colonialists came, we still had those demarcations to differentiate that this is not the country. I mean, this is Uganda, this is some other country. But the mere fact now we have our own history of colonialism in Uganda, so that is when maybe we are putting the blame on the colonialists, that because they just came and made a defined demarcations, but we still had them. However, we are looking at the evolving world. Yes, we are looking at the evolving world. Now, when these people come in these African countries, they just make defined demarcations, but we still had those demarcations. However, they just changed the language, maybe to call them borders. Possibly by then, maybe they had any other word they would refer to it, yes? And they had their own dealings. And now that they are going to, or now that they made the defined demarcations, this is where we tend to call them the borders. For a country to be recognized as a state, as an existing state, there has to be what they call a territory. And then territorial boundaries, yes? So, whatever the case may be, if a state is to be recognized, it has to have the boundaries. Like, there is no way we can do away with them.
Really, we used not to trade for land. People used to fight for resources, trees. People used to fight for trees. But lately, people even don't fight for trees. They cut down trees so that they can create land for other investment. So, on land, only I think what a colonialist added into our thinking was that land is the biggest resource.
But can we do away with borders, or the borders we cannot do away with them?
We can do away with borders.
Are they necessary anyway?
I think we cannot do away with borders. Now, the mere fact that let me just go a little bit under international law. Because it is still going to draw us to this topic still. When you're looking at international law, for a country to be recognized as a state, it has to have the territorial boundaries, the defined territorial boundaries, and that is how they are actually going to govern these states. And in any way or the other, that is how they are going to. How should I explain it? I think that is how they are going to govern this.
Do you mean if Uganda, Kenya, if the whole Africa removed borders and they became a state called Africa, they will not be a state?
If they remove the borders, if they remove those defined borders, it will be taken as a state, like entirely.
Can we do away with borders?
When we want to make it one, we can do away with it.
Can do away with borders.
But that comes with its own effects.
What are the effects now? Let's learn that.
One thing, the one we've been discussing, loss of culture in the other countries.
So, do you think actually borders have increased on forced migration? Do they have any effect on forced migration?
Yes, they have an effect on forced migration.
Please explain.
If I can explain, remember the forced migration. Of course, I'll bring it up in the aspect of seeking for refuge, just like the way it is. You're going to run away from one area and go to another seeking for what? For refuge. Simply because the other area you're not comfortable or your life is at threat. And then this other area you're actually comfortable. So you're moving from that particular area to another area. Yes? This side you're going to be called a refugee, unlike the other side. So that is how, I think that is how it all crosses.
Someone is asking, what is wrong with being called a refugee?
There is nothing wrong provided you're seeking refuge or for protection.
Okay. There's nothing wrong by being a refugee? Who knows something called a camp? No, we want to go with a refugee. Someone says there's nothing going by being called a refugee. Who knows something called a camp? A refugee camp.
I think Wait a moment before you go there. Now, what you're trying to say is that being refugee is bad. Why? Because they are placed in camps. Now, the facilities in camps are only brought about by the incapacities of our countries. If at all our countries had the capacity to offer you the best of services, trust me, they would. All right? But I am very certain it is impossible because really, our countries are that incapable.
Do you know Australia?
Australia?
Yeah.
Yes, I know Australia.
Do you think there is no camp in Australia?
I really don't.
You know Jordan?
Yes, I know.
Do you think there is no camp in Jordan?
There's
Do you know Italy? Do you think there is no camp in Italy? Do you know Germany? Do you think there's... These people have been kept in camps. Okay, let's go back to the border. Okay, but with the border, because you chose the border. So you mean if we remove the border from America, what could be the advantage?
You see, okay, there's I love integration, all right? Me, I love the coast of South Africa. So if
if we remove the border from the US,
exactly,
is there an advantage? Who knows about the open graves, the land of the open graves?
In US, I don't know. I'm just asking.
There is that desert of Arizona where people cross when they're coming from Mexico towards the US. Okay, I think we should watch a video. Just a little bit. We'll watch a video. Maybe we'll have again another reflection after that. We'll see how it is important. Maybe what the borders mean, and when we learn about anthropology, how even we can remove criminality and the cruelty from our laws we make. Maybe in reinforcing border restrictions. Maybe let's go to the camps. Maybe for saving time, we'll talk about camps, and we say most of times we talk about camps when we talk about where people are settled together and in a certain place. It's a territory well contained for specific category of people, and most of times this is done for refugees, and it is called a refugee camp. And these people normally are set into certain laws. Even though a country has laws, but these people are set also under certain also laws. They have the laws that govern them inside the refugee camp. And for a disadvantage, maybe when someone says what's wrong by being a refugee, I don't know if you have ever been in a camp, maybe, so that you feel how it feels to be in a camp. Many people are brought actually together. When we talk about anthropology, we're talking about cultures, right? Let's say if Nakivale was a refugee camp, we have a place there called Somali. Somali is a place normally, the majority are Somalis. Then we have a place for Burundians, a place for Congolese, have a place for Ethiopians, right? And all those are countries within one refugee camp. But these people are forced to live together. They get all resources together, and they have their cultures, and they feel them being maybe broken. Someone feels like someone cannot wear this way, and then this one must wear that way, and they must be forced to live together. We see the way they live. Those small tents they give to a whole family of I don't know how many people, and they are living in that small tent. When it is hot, the whole heat is on them. When it is cold, the whole chill is on them. Do we think a camp is really a good place? And what do we learn by it? What do we feel about it?
Of course, I wanted to comment this when I heard what the lady said, that there is nothing bad with the name refugee. There is a lot of things, even bad, very disadvantageous things that comes with the name refugee. Of course, you are a Ugandan, you don't know. So, it is.
You don't miss what you have. It's until you lose it that you start to lose it, you start missing it.
Okay, so the name
it
refugee
only feels cold when the heat is gone. Okay, you cannot see the darkness when the light is on, when the candle is still burning.
So with the name refugees, we always we have missed out on very good opportunities because of that title, refugees. Again, even if you get an opportunity, it always comes as a bare minimum, like you don't get what you're supposed to get. Even if you are a lawyer, there is the limitation because of the name refugees. And I've experienced that you converse with someone and you see like the person is so interested, and when you mention that you are a refugee, like even the look, the expression, the facial look, no, not courtship, the facial expression, like they feel like they start feeling pity for you. They feel like you're not of this world, you don't know anything, you're dumb, maybe you're so limited to a certain knowledge, skill.
Don't have camps here in Uganda. I think it's only one, isn't it? Whereby they only receive them, and also after, just for a few days, and then they send them to...
That one also is not a camp, it's called a reception center.
Yeah, a reception center, you see. So we don't have camps to begin with, but of course we do understand what is a camp is sort of about.
I'm sorry, but I have to understand what is a camp and what is not. And what
Okay, a refugee camp is a place, as you have said before, normally where people are put together under strict surveillance, restricted movement, supplied with minimum basic support for their survival. And another thing we should add, a camp should be temporary. It's never permanent. No one is supposed to stay in a camp forever. This is a place where people are placed for safety, pending assisted for durable solution. So when people are put there, it is supposed that when peace comes back home, they should return peacefully, voluntarily, which is called voluntary repatriation. If the land where they are has minimum support, and the laws of the land can enable it, they are facilitated into local integration. And if that is the second durable solution, and also if they are not safe where they are, the laws of the land cannot accept them, and even home it is still insecure, they can be given resettlement. That is when they are taken to a third country, which normally this is not a third world country. Now that is called all that happens either to urban settlement or camp refugees. However, the camp, we have said this one is restricted. People don't get out of that place. Now when you come to Uganda, it isn't there. According to the Refugee Act of 2006, as revised in 2010, allows refugees to have the same rights as Ugandans when it comes to rights of employment, rights of movement, education, and all other opportunities. Only refugees are restricted from participating one activity and one benefit. The one, they have no right to political participation. They cannot be voted, and they cannot vote into political positions. Secondly, they have no right to own a freehold land title. That is the only benefit they also don't get, but they can lease. They can have land on lease. So then, how it becomes a settlement is because this place is gazetted, but it is not under strict surveillance. They are given minimum support and given opportunity to move out of that same place to go to look for supplements to their support.
The first advantage of being in camp is protection that you get, because there are some people, like here in Kampala, anyone can get you because you are just there, you know. But of course for camps there is that kind of protection that you can get. And now disadvantages, it's very many. You can't even finish them. The first one, like you don't have freedom of movement, and also the support they get, it's almost to zero. Like it's for you to survive so that you can wake up the following morning. It's not something that can sustain you. And okay, you can't improve your life really while you are in camp. That's the thing. Like education, health, everything. It's terrible. And of course, you can't wish anyone to live in camp, but we know the great people who came from camps. I think also, on the other hand, it's something that take a microphone and upload it. I'm not going to do it.
No. I think no, because you people, it's you who really are the victims of it, right? Just in case they incorporated refugee hosting camps into refugee hosting. I've been told that there is a camp in Kenya, and I was told that it is too much restriction. There is too much restriction. So in Uganda, if at all we have settlement, please, we need an applause.
Yeah. But like I think they are one of the best. Even these third world countries always come to learn from Uganda, and also it becomes a problem now to Ugandans, whereby they claim that their country is being taken over by the refugees, which somehow you should understand them. You get?
I think camps are good. They're a good remedy, because you said that they are temporary, right? They are not permanent. So anyways, we also need to get into a discussion of how temporary is temporary.
It's not only camps, it's refugee, being a refugee.
Temporary. So we also need to maybe get into a discussion of how temporary is temporary. Maybe, if at all being in a camp is only going to last for about 2 weeks or a month, really that is workable, right? We are just getting you there for scrutiny purposes, maybe, okay? I'm just thinking, okay? For scrutiny purposes, and then if at all you're clean, we can let you out and go, do. And then the other thing is having too many numbers of refugees in another country, okay? I think then we are, in a way, doing away with political boundaries. There is a time when political boundaries are just going to be eroded, okay? People are just going to move, because now we are having economic migrants disguising as refugees, okay? So time is going to come, and really we are not going to have any political boundaries. In a small time, we are going to have East African integration, really. So, and I'm very certain, how many countries are we going to have by then? We are going to have about 10 countries in the EAC. So it is going to be free movement, free association.
15-minute film. It is going to talk about migration. In that film, we are going to see how people go through all the dangers just to find safety in the US. And the person who made it is Professor Jason De Leon. It was his presentation when he was presenting about his research on anthropology of forced migration, of migration, not forced migration, of migration, and which many call illegal migration towards US. And in the same, he made a book called The Land of Open Graves. Maybe for those ones who will have time, you can read that book. I will share with you the link. It's a very interesting book that talks about all the hell people have to go through to get to the US from Mexico. Watching the film, we will have a short discussion, like of I think we can have 5 minutes to discuss about it. Across this desert. So the desert is very dangerous. That's what they call it, the land of open graves. I think we remember when we talked about that in the beginning. The land of open graves is that one. Why? Those people are Mexicans, and the other people, they use that same way. They go and you saw the shop where they buy equipments, first aid kits, hiking boots, camouflage, everything that will help them through the desert. But of course it is dangerous because many people die from there. They have shown you that in statistics, 330 people are caught every day trying to cross. They are caught because they are illegal migrants. They are trying to cross into America illegally. So they are arrested like that. And one dies at least every day. Yes? And these are not Mexicans only, by the way. Many people also live in Africa. They use it as the way through. You can hold the microphone, it's okay. You ask.
Death is due to the condition of crossing the border, okay? Yes, because they are using a desert. In a desert, it is hard to have surveillance, okay, over the border. So they use the desert to cross, but condition of a desert, it is not quite survivable, okay? So that's why they die. In case they lose water, they can't move any further. Birds are going to prey on them, all right? So they have to survive, cross the border. Some do, some do not. Sorry? Don't you know a vulture? A vulture feeds on meat, flesh. So it can feed on a person.
Did you see them?
Did you say vulture?
You saw them, the vultures. They were already there. Just by the time that pig was there, 6 vultures were around already to eat. When Marison was there dead, they covered Marison. Already birds had started circulating because they knew normally when there are clothes down and they are not moving, it means someone is dead. So they were ready to come and eat. Does anyone have a question or an observation according to the film? Do you think that it is important to have anthropology as a research to be done, people to understand how people cross, what they go through when they are crossing? Is it important?
Yes, it is. I think in most cases, researchers do their work for only to publish, in most cases. Research never gets that attention it deserves, okay? Because I'm just thinking, if at all a document like this maybe gets to the attention of the power holders, okay? They really need to do something about it. Yes, I like the way these people trace patterns of migration, what people go through while they're migrating, and how they do it and what causes them. So all these need to be addressed, okay? I think we need to, but we need to put that flow, because in Africa we have refugees. Why don't the Americans allow Mexican refugees, okay? Because I'm just thinking, if at all on a daily we have about 300 migrants, then we need to ask ourselves, is it because America does not recognize Mexicans as refugees? And if at all it does not, why do they keep coming illegally? So these are all issues that need to be addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Because we need to prevent death and possible indignation of people that cross via the desert.
Okay. Now, how is this film related? This story of Leon, how does it relate to what we have discussed today? What we discussed earlier when we had microphones? How is it related? The film we have watched of anthropology, how is it related to what we have been discussing?
Okay, so for me, I feel like the human culture, the human society culture and everything, every time you learn about it or you watch a documentary about it, you learn something new. Like now, I've learned something new about the desert, which I didn't know before. Like, I used to see people go in Dubai in desert, and I feel like the desert is a very adventurous place to be in. I didn't know it could be that dangerous. So, and I used to think if you are lucky enough to enter, especially in America or any other desired country, to enter in the country illegally, I used to think the desert would be a good place. I used to think maybe the seas are only the dangerous place. I couldn't think that even the desert can be that dangerous. So it comes with the awareness and the new information about a certain thing. So, and it left me wondered what could be the problems people are facing in those countries, even if you know that people die in the desert, but they continue going through that process. You know that you're going to die, you know what, but still imagine what could be the problem there, which make you risk your life to that extent. Yeah.
Very interesting. What is that is pushing you to accept to die just because you want to cross? And still those people are called illegal migrants instead of forced migrants. So not deserving even protection at that point. Yes?
Maybe to also add on that, history also lets us know, or it creates awareness of how these people come, like the conditions or the situations they pass through as they are migrating. Most of the people are just seen when they have reached, but you don't actually know what has transpired on their way. You don't know how many people left a certain country, maybe to cross, or a certain area to cross to another area. You don't know what actually transpired in that way. You don't know how many people left and how many people have actually made it. So it also creates awareness, like it opens our brains to that aspect.
Okay, now maybe I'll use that opportunity. Angela, for you, you're Ugandan. Nelson is a Ugandan. You may be seeing refugees and you don't know how they got to Uganda. Now, when you get in the humanitarian organizations, now you see how refugees risk to get to Uganda. They don't use passports or visas. They go like that. They pass through forests. They walk long miles without food, without anything. Sometimes even after surviving rape, or even after losing their loved ones. That's how they come. So I think you have learned something. When you be the other side handling these people, you relate to also this film, you see. Most of the times when we see them, they have arrived, we actually don't know where they passed. So even the judgment, the decision we make, it's according to how we are seeing them, not how their past was. Nelson, I think we can relate that even to our normal life, right? Yeah. So
it actually also helps. Now, when such documentaries open people's brains, you know, there is that long process these refugees pass through to attain that status of being a refugee legally. But these people just don't know what they are going through. And they're just going to look at the person and then they say, no, you still have these things to do. Like, they really make your life hard. Having passed through a lot, and then they are still straining your life to get that status you get. Now, if such stuff are addressed to the public or to those people in such offices, I think they can also be lenient a bit.
Thank you so much, Angela. And now I will ask, what aspect in this De Leon's research did you find most interesting?
Okay, if at all I were the one in his shoes, there are certain there is certain that I would not explore. Now, for him, he has explored as low as just shoes that are dumped. Okay, and to him that is too much data to begin with. Now, just in
as an archaeologist,
yes, I mean, I don't know. Is it being keen, or they just see everything as data, just as it is? But maybe me, I would judge which is data and which is not. If at all, maybe I were in his shoes. But me, I'm just amused by the fact that to him, everything is data. The fact that there is a vulture around, that is also data. Like, so maybe there is too much to them as compared to I. Anyways, I think I may not make a good researcher because there is certain things I would overlook.
Obviously, you can make a good researcher, but you cannot make a good archaeologist. When you study archaeology, you also learn about those, because all those are part of informants. The remains. Normally, archaeologists rely on remains. They can, of course, use stories, but remains. Everything makes data. Even when they see, like, where someone may have stepped, it's already data. They take that picture. Which animal could have stepped here? This rib, this bone, does it belong to an animal or to a human? There is a pot. Which human could have used this pot? Which year maybe? To understand maybe when was the human created. All those, they are part of their data. The shoes and what, it's what was helping him to also collect it. Of course, when you study archaeology, that one also you get it as one of the trainings. But it's really interesting that now you see, maybe in your department, when you're doing something, you don't consider this, but the other person cares about it. So it actually shows that anthropology is very important in this forced migration. If we can have many anthropologists doing research in forced migration, maybe it can make more sense. As we all agreed, it can make more sense. It can inform decision makers. It can inform laws, right? To be more human than how they are always to decide this one is wrong, this one is right. But now they consider these people where they went through, and maybe to address the issue from the other side. Let's not wait for these 330 people to cross and we hold them, we stop them at the border, but we stop them from here because some of them have died in the desert. Then we have arrested the 330. What is happening on the other side that we cannot stop there? Maybe. I think it can be very important. Yes?
I think the most crucial part, according to his research, what did he put? The bits of clothes to test how the vultures, in how many minutes, how long could it take for the vultures to come and clear everything for the people who have actually passed
Those were
on.
pigs, huh? He used.
Yes. Now, that kind of observation, it brought out the aspect of how many people are dying. I think that is where they brought in that other concept of the land of the open grave. Yes, it is just an open grave. You will not see the remains of those people because they're just going to be cleared in just a few minutes.
So for me, I want to add on a small comment. The fact that he stood up and went to research and explore about this desert issue is so, I don't know, impressive. I feel like even some of the staff in this refugee organization can do the same, because they humiliate refugees when they are coming in Uganda. As in, you tell someone a story which he has never seen or heard, only in the movie. They have ever heard that thing in the movie. Like sometimes they say you are lying, because the place where they know those things are from the movies, from the series. So I wish each organization can send some of their staff to explore where these refugees are coming from, because if you were told about this story without the facts, the research, the images, you could say, that is a
Thank you, Rebecca. And then, apart from maybe what Nelson said, is there any other confusing thing that you watched in this film when you were watching, or something you did not agree with in what De Leon said? Because you said that something which was confusing is how he considered even the shoes being data, and then the vouchers, all of those he considered to be data. For you it was confusing. You wouldn't actually consider them.
Like, I was wondering more about those birds. Do they eat people when they are alive, or they wait for people to die and eat them? If yes, what could be the reason behind the death? Only the lack of water?
What could be the reason of that death? Someone said people, when they lack water, they can die. We know also the temperatures are different, right? There are snakes, there are scorpions. We know they are poisonous. We know that is walking for long miles. And maybe Madison, being a woman, don't you think maybe she was raped? Because we have seen there even bandits in that desert who are there just to steal people who are crossing. We saw that, right? Don't you think maybe Madison was killed by those bandits? Maybe they raped her and killed her. Isn't it possible also? Maybe she was bitten by a scorpion. It is poisonous. Maybe she got tired Maybe she fell sick of any other disease and there was no doctor to attend to her. And we have had, is it Miguel or Victor, who said that his pressure went low at a certain point when he was still trying. His pressure was low and he was about to die. So don't we think maybe also that one can be one of the reasons? So there are many things that can kill people in the desert. Is it true? But maybe when we read the Land of the Open Grave, we can read more reasons of what kills people. Because there are people who have already crossed, those who lost people in the journey, and they can have some stories to share about what was happening, right? Yeah, but I think we'll have again more time to discuss about that. But I think this anthropology is very interesting. It is very important to learn about. And maybe when we get time as a rendezvous, we will invite these researchers from Oxford. Maybe we can have an online session with them. These professors, they are very interesting. I think they can accord us some time. We have maybe an online session because we cannot afford flying them to Uganda. This work, I know most of you said yes. You have answered to this question. Huh? You have said how it has shaped, it has actually removed delusions, people think that people are lying. And like Angela said, some people just see people when they have arrived, but they don't know where they passed. They don't know what they went through. So I'm trying again to bring back the same question in another format, maybe for another edition. Do you think it was helpful, his work, and why? Why do you think it was helpful, or why do you think it was not helpful in real world, not in an anthropological world?
To me, his research is crucial because it is something. Migration is something that has not been focused on. Like, they don't really focus on that aspect of migration, but he's also drawing people's attention towards that particular aspect of migration. How does it come about? Like, his research is just opening people's brains or drawing people's attention towards that particular aspect such that they should also focus on it. At some point of time, if people are so caught on, or if they get so emotional and they get so concerned about it, maybe they'll find something to do about it. Most especially to those desert areas, and then those other areas where they didn't. I should call it a specimen, like the desert area being a specimen or being a center of focus for his research. But there are also those other areas where people are trying to escape. They're using it as an escape route. But he has not gone there. He's just giving a lively picture in the desert. I think it's important worldwide.
The Leon's work is very important because recently I had a friend who told me that he wants to go abroad, maybe in America, by foot. Yes, I don't know if he was mad or I don't know. He told me that that I had some idea. I wanted to go abroad, use it by foot, what? And I said, wow. And I really didn't think about what will be the challenges that he will go through that journey till today. So I learned a lot, and I didn't know that Mexican people go through those things. For sure, it's horrible. Yes.
I think it's a useful cause. I didn't know that way. For sure, I didn't know. Okay, I knew that way, but I don't know what people pass through when they are going. So, I was asking myself how people can take that risk to go there, yet they know they don't have enough water. Do they reach, or all of them they die? Do some people reach to America as they want, or it's like a few number? Yeah, I was asking myself.
Okay, thank you so much. According to Jensen, I saw him in conclusion. He said, today, 330 illegal migrants will be arrested, will be detained. So you get that the 330 go through up to the end, every day, and they are arrested. You can imagine. And then he says, after his research, he met with Miguel and Victor, whom he didn't know that they would make it. Because when they got to the desert, he teared, he cried, because they had become his friends. So he thought they were also going to die. But he went to meet them, and he found even the bag that he had given them, he had signed on. They had left it in the desert because they said it was heavy. So they had to get a light bag. So you can imagine that journey where even the bag you started with, you feel like, I cannot reach with it. You drop it and get a small one. You get? So some people reach. Yeah. But how is the structure even after reaching?
Thank you so much, dear listener, to have paid attention to this podcast. My name is Amudu Salongo Jean Pierre, and I was your host. With me here were the young people of Rendezvous Youth Group, which is a refugee project support group here in Kampala, Uganda. Today, we discussed the role of anthropology in forced migration, and next Friday, we are going to talk about international relations and the politics of forced migration. Don't miss that.
Please follow us on Twitter at Rendezvous YG, and mine is at Amudu Salongo. We are also on YouTube as Rendezvous Youth Group. Mine is Amudu Salongo Jean Pierre, and our Facebook is Rendezvous Youth Group. Mine is Jean Pierre Amudu Salongo. So don't hesitate to follow us and to share with everyone else. This was a community engagement as I do my studies in refugee and forced migration. Thank you. Until we meet again next time. Ciao.